Okay, so today we're going to be talking about chemical changes, mainly the formation of a precipitant and a permanent color change. So I know some of those words right now might be a little confusing, you don't know what those mean, but we're going to do an experiment or an investigation to see if you guys can figure some of it out. Now before we start, I want all of you to hold up your pencil real quick, and I want you to circle number 4 on the first page and put a star next to it. And then I want you to flip over to the back page and I want you to circle number 3 and put a star next to it. And then those are going to be special questions, and don't do those until you're instructed to, okay? Until we talk about them. So first things first, we're going to talk about our exploration station number 1, which is going to be our first 2 groups. So that'll be you 2 and you 2, and then Michael and Sarah. I almost called you Anna, but you guys are going to be our exploration station number 2. So just 1 second. So at this first station, what you guys are going to do is you have all these materials. So right now I want you to, between you and your partner, figure out who has the shortest middle name, and that person is going to be the primary investigator and the recorder. Okay. So the person with the shortest middle name is going to be our P stands for primary investigator, right? Yeah, primary investigator. And they're also going to be the recorder, so our other is going to be the maintenance director and materials manager. So our materials manager, go ahead and check and make sure that you have all these materials in your first one for exploration station number 1. And for exploration station number 2, if you want, you can check and make sure you have the parts for yours. If you flip the paper over, your list will be on the back. Okay, so we're going to go over some safety real quick. So for exploration station number 1, you want to be careful when handling any glass. If anything breaks, notify me immediately. And there's also supposed to be another bullet point up there saying not to eat anything, unless instructed to. But it's okay. So same thing for exploration station number 2. Make sure you're just being careful and not to eat anything. I'm watching you, Michael. I see you. Okay, so for our station number 1, I'm going to go ahead and go over the procedures, and then you guys can go ahead and do it. And then same thing with exploration station number 2, you'll be making observations. So for station number 1, I want you guys to come up here, your materials manager, and obtain warm milk from me. I've got it right here. Then after that, you're going to add 1 milliliter of white vinegar. There's the vinegar, so the 2 groups will have to share. You're going to add that into your beaker. You're going to stir it once with the stir stick, and then you're just going to let it sit for 2 minutes. After that 2 minutes, you're going to drain the excess liquid into that turquoise bowl that's in the middle, and then you can squeeze out any of the excess with the cloth that you have right there, and then you're going to allow your solid formation to dry, okay? So if you guys want, you guys can go ahead and do that now, and I'm going to go over there and explain to station number 2 what they'll be doing. So station number 2, you guys have, also the instructions are on your exploration guides. You guys have a pre-cut apple right there, so you can make some observations about that. I'm going to cut a fresh apple right here. So maybe just, now what I want station number 2 to do is make observations on your pre-cut apple as well as this new freshly cut apple that I just cut right here for you guys.
Sweet.
There you go.
Thank you.
So station number 1, if you guys want to come and get your milk, I will. There you go. Thank you, ma'am. There you are. Alright, so you guys have about 5 minutes at the station, and then we're going to switch.
So do you just put the vinegar in and stir?
Yeah, so just be sure to stir it once. And if you don't see anything, add another milliliter of vinegar. Because you should be able to see it pretty immediately. Let's see.
Oh, wait, I can see it.
Yeah, I think you do need to add a little bit more though. Wait, try adding like 2 to 3 more milliliters. I might have gotten that.
How about 7?
It's all an experiment, or it's all an investigation. All an investigation. So, and then for group number 1, you want to start making observations.
Oh, wait, what's it? Yeah, I just started.
What are some of the
Oh, just a little
circle?
I think we share. So to drain it, do we just cover it like this?
Yeah, so now to drain it, you're going to cover the top part and you're going to pour it into this bucket right here. And then you are able to then squeeze the excess liquid into there, and then you'll let it dry on your paper towel.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I just realized we definitely should have had 3. But it's okay.
What kind of cheese is this? Cheddar?
Maybe like a white cheddar.
Is this really made any cheese?
Wait, no, you it's only been 1 minute.
It is.
I'm excited.
No.
It's like the very basic, basically.
No way.
Okay, so station number 1, go ahead and start to drain it so we can let station number 2 switch with you guys.
So, we'll make my own cheese now.
Wait, your turn.
There you go. Now you can like pinch it, so like leave it turned over, and then you'll want to get the cloth and we have a mess.
It's all still good.
Okay. Do you guys need some more paper towels?
Probably.
Okay.
There's some right here.
Okay. There's some more heated. Alright, and then you can put it on there, and then you guys can
Oh, here.
take
Sorry,
this
guys.
one. Yeah, sorry, I was like, we only have one bowl.
Ew.
And then, so materials manager for station number 1. Whenever you are finished using your test tube and beaker, be sure to rinse it out so it's ready for the next use, for the next station.
It's fresh cut. What's wrong with it?
Actually, it's like an hour ago. Okay, you got to go.
Well, this one's fresh cut.
Oh, yeah, that
It's totally fine.
Never washed it.
Is that why it smells like
Be sure to be noting observations, guys.
I'm gonna go home and make a gallon of mozzarella cheese.
Organic, fresh made.
And then here you go. If you want to dry it more with paper towels. All right, everyone, wrap up your observations. We're about to switch.
Is it edible?
It's cheese.
Can we try?
Can we eat it?
I mean, if you wanted to. I mean, no, actually, no. Not with this stuff because these are like from an actual lab where they put like other chemicals inside of them, so it wouldn't be too safe for you to eat it.
That's fine. I'll assume total responsibility for my cheese inquiry.
Alrighty, so everybody write down your final observations. We're about to switch.
Got it.
So what I want is Michael and Sarah, I want your group to switch spots with Ashley and Cassie. And then this is your station too. Yeah.
I'll just wait till you say it.
Yeah. Yes. Alright, so now you're gonna go ahead and go to the other one. If you need me to repeat anything, just let me know. Station 1. Whenever you're ready, you can come and get your milk from me up here. Station 2, go ahead and record your observations.
Okay, so 50 milliliters warmed milk.
Yes.
So what's our make observations here? Okay.
And then you're gonna want to go ahead and add about like 5. It says 1, but it needs to be like more around like 3 to 5.
Do you have any fresh cheesecloth?
You're not having?
There's not any in here, but see.
This one's dark.
I think I did this before.
Yeah.
Very accurate.
Oh, I can't tell. I don't interpret anything. Right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, what we're gonna do then?
Stir.
Nice. The platform has some more spots on it.
Okay. 416.
Yeah. It doesn't look as juicy.
Yeah. Dry.
It's not.
Where are you gonna go?
This work.
It should, yeah. Is it?
Well, there's scissors back there if you use the scissors.
I do, yeah, actually. I need
Scissors
pairs
might
of this.
be a little
That'll be fine.
This is literally just gauze.
Yeah.
It is.
I feel like
Yeah.
Don't know when you eat
Maybe
just put
they're both kind of snappy.
I don't smell anything.
Okay, this one's more sweet. So
Alright, we can stir.
more.
Okay. One more minute.
Okay, so
Smells
Do you want to do it? Do you want me to do it?
They both have these little stuffs going on the bottom.
yeah, that's the point.
Yeah.
Go ahead and record some of your final observations. You have about a minute left.
Did we say brownie yet?
Do not let boil these foods.
Yeah.
Well, it's still liquid, but something has created something. What are the dishes that
Nice.
Steak liquid, that's kind of cloudy though.
They both have this little middle opening. Yeah.
More clear than it was. The milk was.
Yeah.
Probably need more because
All right, everyone, finish up your final observations, and materials manager, go ahead and start to make sure everything's in order, and maintenance director start to clean up.
Oh my god. Wait, I'm sorry.
It's okay, we're good. We didn't really know. We were just out of
I don't know. Did you touch it yet?
Oh,
It's
it's
off.
too.
I really want to make cheese now.
You want to eat it?
No, you could. Oh, my bad. I was like, if they put real chemicals in there, so.
So if you make this at home, it is edible?
Yeah.
Sick.
That's what we made it in our class, and they just added salt and ate it in class.
Wow.
We don't need our cheese anymore, dude.
No. And when you make this at home, be sure not to boil the milk though, because the actual process is the vinegar is like it's denaturing the proteins and like making the cheese. So if you boil it, it already denatures the protein, so you don't. So you just want it to be warm about like 30 seconds.
What can we do with
You can go ahead and dump it down the sink. It's all safe.
Do you want us to bring our baskets back? Or
Yes. Whenever you return all your materials and you've got everything, go ahead and return your baskets to the table over here. I was like, you can just put it all together. All right, now when everyone returns back to their seats, we're gonna go ahead and move on to our discussion.
Alright, is everybody ready to stand on? Okay, so for our discussion, we're going to refer back to what we previously learned and talk about physical change. Now, can anybody give me an example of a physical change?
Ice melting.
Ice melting, okay. Sarah, give me a piece of paper. Okay. Alright, so those are great examples. So we all know that a physical change is a change, such as a phase change, like Michael referred to, that occur with no change in chemical composition. So if you look at the screen real quick, crushing a can is a great example because it's still a can, right? We don't have any chemical composition changing going on. But today, in our lab, we discovered chemical changes. Those are processes in which one or more substances are converted into new substances. And some examples on the board are rusting, cooking, baking, when you burn wood, all those form new materials, correct? So we can argue that when we cook an egg, it's not going to be just the liquid that we saw with the yolk anymore, right? It becomes something new and we can eat it. All right, so this is just some background information. You will be learning this more in depth as you go on in school. But with regular solutions, we have, when we mix a component into liquid, we usually see that it doesn't really form anything, right? It just stays as a liquid, and it stays as a liquid, and it's called a solution. But within our lab, what did you guys see happen with ours? Made a solid.
It made a solid, right? Okay, and that is going to be called a precipitate. Okay, that's one of our vocabulary words. Great.
And a precipitate, the definition of that is an insoluble solid formed by a reaction in a solution. And insoluble means that it is not soluble, you cannot dissolve it in liquid. So with the cheese that we made, we saw that you couldn't convert it back, right? It wasn't just dissolving inside the liquid, it had become a solid. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our guides. And I want you guys to discuss this with your partner. On number 4, it says, do you think this was a chemical change and what is your evidence? And remember, we're talking about the cheese that we made.
Yes. Solid cheese. Is formed
Does anybody want to volunteer their answer that you and your partner came up with? Michael?
Yes, solid cheese was formed out of the milk and it cannot be changed back into milk.
Okay, and your evidence was that it cannot be changed back, right? So we
Yes.
formed a precipitate, correct?
Yes.
All right, great answer. And then if I can have you guys turn to number 3 on the very last page. Actually, let's go ahead and create a Venn diagram, and I want to see what you guys came up with, okay, for your observations. So real quick. All right, so what should we put on this side? Pre-cut, okay. And what should be on this side? Fresh cut. All right, anybody want to volunteer some stuff?
We said the pre-cut was squishy.
Squishy, okay.
Brown.
Brown.
The edges were kind of wrinkled.
Okay. Edges wrinkled. Anything else?
We said it didn't smell as fresh.
Okay. So no fresh smell. All right. Anything else you guys want to add to that? No? All right. What about the fresh cut? Any?
Wet. It was shiny, you could see the liquid on it.
Okay.
Juicy.
Yeah, juicy.
Juicy, okay. Did it look more yummy to eat, or did you guys want to eat the pre-cut apple?
More appealing for sure.
More appealing for sure. Okay. Anything else y'all saw?
It was firm.
Firm. Okay. Was there any differences in its appearance? More differences in its appearance?
It was more of its crisp yellow color or whatever. Off
Was it brown like the other one?
No, it was not brown.
Okay, so different color. All right. And any similarities between the two?
The outside color wasn't
Okay.
changed much.
The same outside color?
They're both still apples.
Oh, okay. That's good. Both still apples. Apples. Okay. So basically, what was the biggest difference that you guys saw between the two apples?
Color.
The color change, right? So one was brown, one was kind of looking like it was getting ready to just rot a lot. And the fresh cut apple was more juicy, it was shiny, it was firm, and it was a different color, right? And it looked more appealing to eat. So a permanent color change is also an example of a chemical change, right? Okay, that's all. Okay.
Sweet.
Good job. All right, we have some cleanup to do.